Lesson 7. Opening a workbook with macros. In this lesson, we're going to talk about trust center settings. The problem that we have is that macros are not automatically enabled when someone opens our workbook, and they're not forced to answer the question. One alternative to this problem is to store the macros in a trusted location. Another alternative is to store the macros in an add-in. Let's get started. Now I'm going to assume for this lesson that you've changed your macro security, as we talked about in lesson 1, to disable all macros with notification. I'm going to open a file that has some macros in it. Previously, in Excel 2003 and earlier, the person opening this workbook would have been forced to answer a question at this point, whether or not they wanted to enable or disable our macros. At least they had a choice. At this point, the macros have been disabled and the question has been reduced to the info bar. So it's possible for someone to start entering data in the spreadsheet without actually seeing the question of whether they want to enable the macros. This can be very frustrating if you were counting on the workbook open macro to prepare some data for the person. The person actually has to come in and click Options and choose to enable this content. And there you see my message box from the workbook open macro appears. To me, this is not an acceptable solution, requiring the person opening the workbook to actually notice the info bar and go to the info bar. I really want those macros to run all the time. So, one solution that we have is to go into the Trust Center and to set up a trusted location. This is great if the person that you're preparing the macros for, works in the same office as you, and you can get to their computer and you can change these settings. We'll go into Macro Security, and over here on the left-hand side, choose Trusted Locations. Now, typically, there's a few locations that are trusted by default, the template locations, but we're going to add a new location. So I'm going to quickly go into Windows Explorer. I'll press the Windows key and the E key. We'll go into the C drive, and I'll add a brand new folder called, let's call it Bill's Macros. Click OK. And here in the Trusted Locations, I'll add a new location and browse for Bill's Macros. Click OK. Click OK. And now you see that this location is a trusted location. We'll click OK, and I'll save my macro into that folder. I'll save it as a macro-enabled workbook. Navigate to, and we'll call it Lesson 7. Alright, so now I can close the workbook. And when I reopen, this time from the Bill's Macros folder, you see that nothing appears in the information bar, and in fact, my message box from the workbook open macro appears, so this macro is available and ready to run. Well, that solution will work if you have access to the computers of the folks that you're running macros for. Certainly, as I said, if it's in your office or in an office across the street, that's great. But if you're sending this macro out to people around the country or around the world, you're going to have some problems. Another solution is to package the macro as an Excel add-in. Now here's how we'll create an add-in from this macro. We're going to use File, Save As, and add-in is not one of the options available, so we're going to choose Other Formats. In the Save As Type box, look for Excel add-ins. It's a .xlam file, and by default, they navigate deep down into the computer. I actually want to move this back to a location where I can find it. So we'll go to C:\data and save it as lesson07.xlam. Click Save. Alright, so we would distribute this file via email, and then on the other side, the people would have to save it in a folder on their computer. It doesn't have to be a trusted folder. And they would then go in and go to Excel Options, go to Add-ins, say that they wanted to manage the add-ins, and browse for the folder. So now Lesson 07 is an installed add-in. And it's available. Now let me just show you what will happen. We'll exit Excel. And every time they open Excel, this macro runs and is available to them without having to answer the macro security question. This behavior is different than it was in Excel 2003. I actually like the Excel 2003 version much better because they're forced to answer the question. Either they're explicitly turning off our macros, which then they don't have the functionality, but at least they knew about it. Here, you get someone who's not experienced with Excel, they don't notice the information bar. The program is not working correctly, the macros are not available, and they don't understand why. So a couple of options for you there. Either set up trusted locations or distribute the workbook as an add-in, and you'll be able to overcome those problems with the info bar. Well, I hope you found that lesson useful. In the next section, we're going to start to talk about the Visual Basic Editor.
Looking to advance your career by acquiring new skills? Tired of expensive off-site training programs? Wish you could learn from the best instructors in the industry? Look no further than Live Lessons. Self-paced, personal video instruction by the world's leading technology publishers. Each live lesson comes with a DVD featuring 3 to 4 hours of instructor-led classroom training, sample program code that allows you to work along with your personal instructor, and an example-rich study guide. Live lessons allow you to watch the entire course from start to finish, or navigate directly to any of the individual lessons. You'll literally watch over the shoulder of your instructor as he shows you how to build state-of-the-art applications. Live Lessons, the power of the world's leading technology experts at your fingertips. To learn more, visit mylivelessons.com today.